I hate to break it to you, but neither I, nor the operator of this camera or the camera itself are in space. In fact, none of us even exists. The harsh truth is that it's 16th of June 1755. You're rushing through the streets of Aberdeen, a little bit lost in your own thoughts, still thinking about, I don't know, the Appin murder or something. You stop by to grab the latest issue of the Aberdeen Journal, decide to take a little moment for yourself, light a cigarette, a pipe. You light up a pipe, lean against a convenient wall, and read as follows. They write from Abbey St. Bethians in Lemmermoor, nail it, that they have been greatly disturbed about that place by a gang of thieves, whose haunt they suspect to be in some of the neighboring woods. Tuesday evening, one of these fellows had the impudence to attack a man within cry of his own house. To cry now means mostly to shed tears, and while its original meaning of to shout remains understood and somewhat in use in sayings like to cry wolf or cry mercy, or at least I think it does, I wasn't cursed with English as my mother tongue, there were other uses that disappeared from everyday's vocabulary, like treating it as a measure of distance. To be within cry is to be within the range of voice, and to be at the very end of that reach is to be a far cry from its source. Alright, yeah, so we've got that settled. Now, what the fuck is an instincts predator? Crytek was, is, and always will be a German engine manufacturer. But unlike manufacturers of ones that run on dinosaurs, they realized that the very best way to sell an engine is to show it running. And thus, Farcry was born. A true technological achievement of its time. Never before was the virtual foliage so lush nor vast, and I would love to rant about this game, but I won't. Instead, we will be talking about the game that came next. No, not the disconnected sequel, but the same game, but different. Far Cry Instincts is a remake of the vague idea of the original, exclusive to the original Xbox, that later got expanded and ported to the next Xbox, thus becoming the Instincts Predator. That was the short answer. The PS360 generation of consoles was the first one to receive the healthy dose of HD ports and compilations. But forget about the locked frame rates and gained detail, the Instincts Predator runs like garbage. Not unlike myself, game will regularly chug when under stress and respond with persistent delay. It feels awful to look around and even worse to aim. Luckily, thanks to its standard definition origins, the aiming critical is gigantic, and so is the power of auto-aim. But even still, it gives a solid first impression, especially considering the original Xbox in the room. For convenience sake, from now on, Instincts Predator will be referred to as IP, alright? So, IP opens up expectedly in a jungle, but there are lots more that it wants to show. More than the original, in fact, and at time it's pretty cool looking, not gonna lie. But only until you start looking closely. The levels of Jank are quite impressive. Lack of animations, visible spawns, idiot AI, audio issues, levitation, face mutilation, and pathfinding incompetence. So long, partner. All increasing towards the finale of the game in reverse proportion to the effort put into the locales. I stated it before, but I will again. Gargantuous input delay is the biggest culprit in making this game play like a beaten child. You can adjust to it, but this isn't the kind of discussion we should be even having. At the base of the IP experience is a vaguely Halo 2 shaped FPS. Dual wield, big aiming circle, auto aim, melee system we will be talking about in a minute, you get the point. There's a solid selection of guns, all feeling quite alright. You can even pick up mounted machine guns. Too bad IP forgets about some of them for hours at the time. You'll be spending one half of the game running around with MP5 and the other one with P90 for the most part. Do you know what's the one thing I don't want to hear a word about when holding two smoking hot P90s? Stealth. It is somewhat encouraged and expected, but completely unimplemented within the game flow. AI will have no issue seeing you through foliage, so good luck with that. But the main point is that you can set up a trap. You can throw rocks to lure a guy there, but at the same time you have that gun you're holding, and it's really cool and it shoots bullets super fast. This, ladies and gents, is your health. This green bar is not. It's adrenaline. It regenerates by eating stuff and by itself. But the most important thing is that the more of it you have, the quicker your HP ticks up. IP, that's the Quake 4. You mutate at some point and become a better man. That's gradually unlocking superpowers that are the main adrenaline expenditures. The first one you get, and arguably the most useful one, is the punch. But it's a bit weird. It's not just a punch. When you execute it, the instinct's predator locks onto his prey and crouch sprints to it. Fine. The second one you learn is the smell-o-vision. I guess it was made with stealth in mind, but I found it useful only to see like anything in those super dark levels. And then there's super speed and jump. Quite self-explanatory, isn't it? Well, even if it wasn't, it wouldn't matter much, as, once again, the more adrenaline you have, the quicker your HP regenerates. And when it's full, you become quite unstoppable. So why spend it at all? I don't know. So I didn't. Your basic grunts do very little beyond just standing there and weightlessly ragdolling when you're done with them. They hardly even care when they're shot. They're not fun to fight, and game has to really flood you with them to force you to use all adrenaline superpowers and make the combat flow a bit less like shit. But then, the game wouldn't run, I guess, so they settled on sprinkling them around and spawning them behind you, especially towards the end of the game. Zombies are the other common enemies. Some of them hold SMGs. Okay. Some leap and self-destruct. You get the idea. The only interesting thing those guys do is infighting. Hardly useful here, but at all times fun to watch. Last of the significant enemies are the big guys. They are the boss of this game. One time, he is the boss in an arena with machine guns and explosive barrels. Another time, in a tiny dark room. And a couple more times with twists that make it fun. IP is a linear game. But when it's not putting you in a literal corridor, it's putting you in ravines, which are basically the same fucking thing. What I was meaning to tell you is that there are vehicles in this game, and while for the most part they are shit, you get to fly a glider, like in a far better game, I know. All of the above things culminate in a experience that rarely has any decent flow. The best it gets is an open area that you can just kind of circle around and shoot guys. I am quite convinced that levels and set pieces were designed by people that did not understand the combat sandbox they were given. The guns, enemies, abilities are alright at best. That's still plenty to make an alright game. But they didn't. I don't want to be groundless, so I have a illustratory example. So, game introduces the kamikaze zombies in the swamps. The kamikaze zombies run at you and explode. That's all they do. Unlike any other exploding enemy I have ever seen, they don't look any different, they don't give any audio cue, they are an immediate danger that cannot be recognized immediately. Swamps are pretty dark and rainy, so pretty much all the time you're using the smell-o-vision in order to recognize danger, and especially to see the kamikaze guys. The only thing that can save you from an explosion once they get close, and they will, is to use the adrenaline punch, but it takes a bit of your adrenaline, which is constantly draining from the smell-o-vision. Oh, and yeah, those kamikazes spawn behind you every now and then just to spice things up. The entire level is set up in a way so the new enemy will be taking cheap shots at you, and at least once you will be left blind and defenseless. What the fuck? The instinct's predator has not been such since inception. It had to become one. It had to evolve. Let's talk about evolution. There is this legend that this expansion is the tits. The moment when everything clicks, but I don't care what the Triple G man was smoking 4 years ago. It's not, alright? There is a visible effort. Expansion tries to wow you by its first level. It's huge, open, you get to choose your approach for once, and never again. There's a smoking weed sequence, like in that other game, wink wink, and there are much more set pieces. The only changes that had any effect in the way the game is actually really plain would be that every now and then the superpowers are obligatory to use in order to progress, so you have that in mind. And there's a new type of enemy, those jumpy guys. They take a fair beating and shoot you either with LMGs or blow darts that take your adrenaline away. You even get to have one of your own, the expectation being that I would use it to stop those bastards from jumping around. But I guess neither them nor the game itself were expecting me to have this really fucking cool machine gun. All those things are good, but none solve the issues of persistent garbage enemy placement, level pacing, the underlying gunplay jank, or the unresponsive enemies. So, to finally give the long answer to the question asked at the beginning of this whole thing, Instinct's Predator is kinda shit. Take care.